Welcome to Hot Takes and Holy Grounds, a podcast by Chalice Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. We are very glad that you are joining us today for our next episode of our podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Jonah, and Jonah as a cautionary horror story. I'm joined by Jim Barton today, who is always with me on these podcasts, and I'm just really grateful that he is with us today. And today we are we're in a new location for our coffee shop, and we're going to start doing something each and every week that we get together, or each and every time that we get together, because we're going to go to different coffee shops throughout the East Valley, and we're going to do coffee reviews of them as a part of this as well. And so today we are at the Bookish Coffee Shop, which is in just off of downtown Gilbert, off the main strip in Gilbert. And it's a bookshop and a coffee shop. It's a really beautiful little place. It's full of people right now. We are out on the patio because there's no room in the inn for us. And so we are out here enjoying our coffee out on the patio.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool spot. It's downtown Gilbert. It's got a lot of books that are like popular reads. It's like totally set up to like encourage people to do book groups. It's a pretty neat setting. Like I said, that the books are not. Sometimes you go to a place like this and the books are like decorative or whatever, or they're like all old books. These are all like real popular reads.
Yeah.
I saw a whole shelf of LGBT friendly books. It's a neat. It has sort of a great energy, and then it also has the typical bookstore, lots of tchotchkes that you can drop some money on if you like. But and my coffee, I'm having the Americano, and it's good.
Nice. It's a good Americano. I've got just their drip coffee, and it is also very nice. It's not a lot of times when I get coffee, it's too dark or it's too they overburn they overburn whatever roast they're doing. And this is a nice medium roast, and I very much enjoy
same with the Americano. I actually am a fan of the over roasted burned coffee, which makes me savage, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's drinking coffee is.
And they don't have sippy cups, unfortunately.
No, they just spill it all over yourself like a fool. But I like coffee to be black. I like to taste the coffee, and I like to know what it tastes like. If you put sugar and milk in it, which I'm a fiend for milk, but I want to taste the coffee.
Yeah, coffee flavored coffee.
Yeah, I don't like all the special drinks that have all the sugar and syrups in it. I want to taste the coffee.
Right.
So, well, cheers, Jim.
Cheers.
Let's get our show on the road. To start with, we're going to start with each time we gather. We're also going to be talking about a current event story, news story that's happening here in the East Valley. And today, our first one is actually not really just located in the East Valley. It's our entire country right now. Today is October 26th, and which means November is Saturday.
Yeah.
And right now we are in a government shutdown, and there is no end in sight on that. And that means that people are going to be out of food because they receive SNAP benefits, or they receive WIC benefits, or they receive some kind of federal assistance in order to get the food that they so desperately need in order to live.
And we understand that those benefits will be cut off. Yep. So not all benefits are cut off. Medicare, Medicaid payments are continuing to be made even as the shutdown goes forward. But the SNAP benefits are going away. And, we thought this was a really important event to talk about because there is actually something you can do about it. You can respond to it by, frankly, this is pretty straightforward. Just start writing checks to food banks.
Yeah.
It's not going to be enough. I mean, I think we're talking about in the billions of dollars. And we have... I think feeding people is a justice issue.
Yes.
I think if you're someone who's in our country and we are the richest country in the world and we have so much excess wealth, it is literally immoral to not feed that person. Yeah. So I'm very disappointed that we're having to move from a structured justice model to a more of a charity model in this interim here. But that's where we are. And I'm thinking I help Paz de Cristo,
yes.
St. Mary's Food Bank, United Food Bank,
Gilbert. There's the Helping Hands in Gilbert.
Gilbert Helping Hands. These are all organizations that literally, and I'm a fan of writing a check over donating canned goods. Donating canned goods, there's something symbolic about that. You're like, oh, look, I'm giving my canned goods to these people and it's going to be eaten, and that's nice or whatever. But I mean, are they the right canned goods? Are they the right? Is it what they need? I think writing a check is the way to go. Well, or whatever electronic.
Yeah, and I've worked for I worked for the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona. I worked for a nonprofit in Tucson that had its own food bank. So like food banking, when you learn the spiel when you're working for food banks, you kind of learn facts about what it means to donate to a food bank. And the truth of the matter is that when you donate to a food bank, especially one that is a part of the Feeding America coalition, every dollar donated can be actually turned into $5 of equal value. So it doesn't multiply the money, but because of the buying power of a food bank, what you can buy for $5, they can buy for $1. Yeah. So for every time you donate $1, they can buy 5 times the amount of food that you could. Mm-hmm. And so donating to a food bank is a really, really great way to help people out in need right now. And so people are just, they're going to not be able to go to the grocery store the next month. They're not going to be able to pick out the food that they need to feed their families. And the other thing that, food banks are great and wonderful and all that, but they don't always meet the dietary needs of those who are going to them. So like if you have diabetes, you may not get low sugar food at a food bank. You may, if you have, high cholesterol, you may not get low cholesterol food. You may get high sodium food. And so there are limitations to that. And so the best thing that we can actually do is, outside of donating to food banks, is to work to end this government shutdown and to make sure that when we come back to the government being open, that we fund these programs so that people can get the food that they need, because each person is different. I don't need the same food that you need.
Right.
We all have our different health issues. Yeah. And so it really is a justice issue, and it's a theological issue as well, because Jesus says, when you clothe the naked, when you feed the hungry, when you do it to the least of these, you also do it to me.
Yeah, that's right.
And so the truth is also the same of the opposite, that when we let people starve, when we let people go without, we're also doing that to Jesus himself.
As Jesus said in Matthew 25, P.S.
That's right.
Like, that's not us. We're not expanding on that. Jesus said that in the parable. 25. So anyway, yeah, I think that's right. And, we were going to talk, we kind of switched around, but I mean, there are, by the way, we do have an election coming up in November in the East Valley, and there are going to be several ballot measures that folks should take a peek at. And a lot of them have to do with funding medical care, or doing other sorts of, school bonds and overrides. I think there might be a couple of those. So, there's opportunity to do a thing and make a difference.
There is. There absolutely is. There's always opportunities to help. I don't buy into the narrative that it's all done. We can still course correct, as we will hear about today in our story about what it means to course correct.
Right. Very good. I love it. Nautical.
Little transition there. Not always good at that, but got one right there.
There you go. Okay.
So today, the theological issue that we're going to tackle today is the classic story in the Bible, Jonah. And one of the things that is important to talk about when we talk about Jonah is that it is not just a fable that we tell our kids, to talk about God, because when you hear Jonah, it's this story of a man who, we tell the story that this man got swallowed up by a big fish and lived in there for 3 days and prayed, and when he was done praying, God spit him out onto dry land and everything was honky-dory.
Yeah.
That's the story that we tell kids about this. But that's not the story of Jonah.
Right.
I mean, it's an easy story that we can tell to talk about God's protection of us, and so we kind of manipulate that story to talk about it in that way. But this is not a story about God's protection. No. It's not a story about if you fall into the water, God's going to send a fish to swallow you to keep you safe. No. This is a horror story, like with a giant beast in the ocean that swallows a man. And I was listening to a news story about a kid who got swallowed by a big fish up in like the Nordic countries, and he went in there not for 3 days, but came out, and the acid in the fish's belly ripped the pigment off his skin. It's not a good thing to be in a fish's belly. This is not a good story, even with the most gracious interpretation. It's still not a good story.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's terrifying.
No doubt. Yeah, that's a crazy video.
So the story of Jonah is we're going to do a recap of it. It's not a very long story in the Bible, but we'll do it even shorter here. God calls Jonah to go to the city of Nineveh, or if you're in Indiana, Nineveh. Jonah
You can name
says,
your town whatever you want.
yeah, that's right.
Just ask the people in Booty, Indiana.
That's right. There's so God tells Jonah, I need you to fix the people of Nineveh. I need you to tell them that it is time for them to repent, get on the right track. Otherwise, bad things is going to happen to them. Jonah says, no, I don't like the people in Nineveh. I want to go to Tarshish where I can retire and live a nice, quiet life by the sea and be happy. Jonah does that, makes his way there. And so a great storm comes when he's on the boat traveling. And as the storm doesn't slow down or calm, the people on the boat start throwing things overboard because they need to lessen their load in order to keep the boat afloat. When Jonah says, hey, this storm was sent by God. I am one of God's children, and I am ignoring God's call right now. Throw me into the water to save the rest of the boat. No problem. They all throw Jonah in the ocean real quick. They don't discuss it. They throw him in. And
they feel sad about it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no like,
yeah.
all right, there's no, should we do this or should we not? They're like, all right, we'll do it. Just throw them over, and they throw it over.
Yeah.
And then, as the famous story comes, a fish comes along, and not eats because he doesn't swallow or digest Jonah, but swallows Jonah into Jonah's or into the belly of the fish. And from there, Jonah prays for 3 days and is spit out onto dry land right near Nineveh. And Jonah says, fine, if that's what you're going to do to me, I'll go to Nineveh. I don't think these people are going to do it. I think this is a big waste of my time. I don't know what you're telling me to do here, God, but I'll go. Jonah goes to Nineveh, tells them to put on sackcloth and to repent. They do everything Jonah asks of them, and nothing bad falls upon Nineveh at that time.
Mm-hmm. And he only walks halfway through the city.
Yeah, he didn't go all the way.
They make a point that he literally half-asses it.
Yeah,
he literally only goes halfway through.
Yeah,
still does it.
Yeah, and he still does it, and he still does it. And so Jonah then, after everything good happens, Jonah goes, and he is waiting underneath the tree, and he's waiting for God, and God sends a bush, to create shade for Jonah to rest under. Well, one day God sent a worm to eat the tree, and the tree died and fell apart. So did Jonah. Jonah didn't like the fact that God sent something to kill the tree.
Yes.
And God says, you're more concerned about this little bush than you were about the people of Nineveh. What's that about?
Right. The millions of people and animals.
Yeah.
Because it mentions animals at the end.
But you're more concerned.
About that than this tree, which you didn't plant this tree. You didn't do anything. You didn't.
Yeah, you didn't do anything to this tree. You didn't tend it. You didn't water. You didn't give anything. You didn't deserve this bush.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet you were more concerned about that than you were about those people.
The end.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great piece of, I taught classes on the great books and great books discussion, small group discussion groups. And this has all the things. I mean, it's so rich. There's so many different ways that you can talk about it.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's really fascinating is when we look at this Jonah, which is its own book in the Bible, Jonah.
Yeah.
It's situated among the prophets, which is not where it belongs. It should be in the writings, but it's in the prophets because there is a place in the book of Kings that refers to a Jonah.
Yeah.
And so there's like, well, maybe it's the same guy. I mean, it's not a prophecy. It's not an oracle. It doesn't address it. It's a story.
Yeah.
C'est la vie. So that's where it is. Now, when you talk about where does it fit in time, it seems like the completed work that we have that was in the Tanakh and that then it came forward into our Bible, New Testament, into the Christian Bible, was written around the time of the return from Persia, by the Persians returned the Israelites back to the Promised Land, right? And so what else is happening then? That's Isaiah 3. That's Ruth is written around that time, and that's Ezra, and the action of Ezra and Nehemiah is happening at that time. In other words, Ezra and Nehemiah are being these like hyper nationalists. They're like, we reject the Semitic people that stayed during the exile. They're bad. The other people are bad. Everybody's bad. They're being I got to tell you, there's some terrible stuff if you read
Yeah.
what happened during the period of Ezra and Nehemiah. It's not friendly. It's not good stuff.
Real tribal.
And we saw a response to that. Ruth is a response to that, right? Because Ruth is like, look, here's the worst of the worst, this Moabite. Turns out she's real good, so good, she's in the line of Jesus, P.S. Isaiah 3 is a little bit of a controversy to that, in that Isaiah 3 is talking about God of the world.
Yeah.
Not just God of the Israelites, God of the world. Meanwhile, we have this very parochial, small-minded, actual stuff happening in Israel. Then here comes this story, Jonah.
Yeah. And we have to remember that Nineveh was not an Israelite. It was not a Jewish community.
Well, they were, if you, based on when it's set, they were the conquerors.
Yeah, they were the ones. Nineveh was the capital.
Nineveh was the capital of Assyria. The Assyrians had, if you set it when this guy is referenced, had just conquered the Israelites and taken them away into exile. So it really is the enemy.
Yeah, it is.
He is being told to go to the enemy, and so that's a fascinating part of this. Now,
what would that be like if today, if Jonah was today and God told Jonah, the American, that it's time he has to go prophesy to the enemy?
We don't have one.
We don't have an enemy like that.
We've tried to do this with this kids in the Sunday school class, and
Yeah.
I was like, well, who is our enemy? They're like, South Korea or North Korea is not our. We're not scared of North Korea. We're not scared of Russia. Right. They were scared of Assyria. I think the way to think of it is, it would be like if you were at a church like Chalice, and we said, you need to go to that big mega church, and I want you to go in there, and I want you to tell them that they're doing it wrong, and they need to repent.
Yeah.
And then they do change it, and you're like, how mad would you be if things work out for them?
Because meanwhile, and then the jealousy for us sets in, because it's like, their church is going to remain huge.
That's right. And then the church turns around to get even bigger.
Yeah.
And
because they finally turn to Jesus, and you're like,
that right. How mad would we be? Yeah. So I think I'd be mad. I think we'd be mad. Yeah, I think it is and that's by the way, why this, like all literature, is so powerful. It's so relevant to today.
Yeah.
Because we really are falling into our tribalism, and we really are falling into a place where, we'll say, well, I just, I don't like the MAGA people, and so they're bad and they're evil, and I try to like make them not human. And how dangerous is that? That's how all of the worst things happen when you do that. Yeah. And this is a story that is like not that, and it's to me it's really advanced, because it addresses the fact of how you might secretly want them to be punished.
Yeah.
I hope they don't. I hope they can't afford their insulin. I hope they can't. I hope they get there. Yeah. Well, that's not this. The story of Jonah is telling you that. Do not do that. That is not good thinking. So I think it's cool. I mean, one other thing, by the way, just a PS in this, is that I think it's it's so cool in the structure of it, because you have this story. Who knows how old this story is? The story might be really ancient. The story of Job, same way. Like, you have a little tight story, but then they sort of put it apart and they put some poetry in it. That's like, so in this story, there's a poem in the middle when he's in the whale or the fish.
Yes.
And it kind of fits, but it doesn't really. Yeah. It's like a musical number. It's like they just do it. It's like the hits. So this is why I say it's complicated today. The story itself might be super old. Yeah. The poem in the middle, the prayer in the middle,
maybe the oldest part.
Probably, right? Probably the oldest part, because that's how those are things that get remembered. And then the making it about the other, right? So making it about other. And by the way, if I'm right about when this was, the big bad wasn't Assyria anymore. It wasn't Nineveh anymore. It would have become Persia, Babylon, and then Persia. But they do that all the time in the Bible, right? Yeah. There's all the time when we're like, we make the big bad the last big bad, not the one we're really talking about.
But that's because they know what that big bad was.
Because they get it.
And they know what that horror is like.
When they say the horror of Babylon, they obviously are talking about Rome. Like
yes.
So I think it's a neat piece of fiction. I mean, not fiction. I think it's a neat piece of literature that is so freaking relevant today. I mean, I think it is really, really relevant to us right now.
Yeah, it's absolutely relevant to us today, because we still live with this this idea that Jonah dealt with, doing what we want to do versus doing what God is calling us to do.
And that's the real we, by the way. Sometimes I use we in like sort of a parent way of saying we need to put our coat on. Yeah. In this case, it's the real we, because like I am struggling with it, because I find myself being lured into this sort of nasty, just anti everybody. Like we have to get revenge, and that's not
Yeah.
That's the path of death. That is not an
Yeah.
okay path.
In fact, Jesus tells us not even to get to that point.
That's
You know,
right.
Don't even think about
That's
wanting
exactly
to go.
right.
Like that's the sin itself.
That's
If you
right.
even take that first step,
Yes.
don't do that. Yeah, because you know what Jonah is. Whether you approach the Bible as a literal thing, as the stories that happen in there literally happened in there, this is still a cautionary tale for us to remind us that God God invites us, God calls us, uh, we are instructed by God to do the things that God asks us to do. And no matter what we do, we're going to be pulled into and lured into those ways to do those things. Um, because a lot of times we just think that God will be God and we can just sit back and let God take care of things. Because the truth is if God really wanted to save Nineveh, God doesn't need Jonah.
Right.
Like if we're going to approach the uh, this story from a classical worldview or classical theological view, where God has all the power, God has can do anything that we can't do. God could save Nineveh without Jonah.
Yeah.
This is a reminder that by using Jonah, God invites us to be a part of God's commonwealth, God's kingdom, God's realm, whatever the term you use for it is. Um, it's an invitation to us, but it's also a reminder that God's grace alone is not what this world operates on. That God's grace involves us. In order for us to share what is good in this world, we have to be the ones to do this thing.
Yeah.
We can't just sit back and relax and pretend that no, that's God's doing. If America burns tomorrow, that's the way God wanted it to be.
Yeah. Well, I liked you were thinking of it as a horror story.
Yeah, it's definitely a horror story. The horror story is a caution. The monster in the sea, the whale in the sea, the fish in the sea, whatever it is that whatever your translation of Bible calls it, it's terrifying.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if I know people who don't go to they'll go to the beach, they'll stay on the sand, and they'll say, "I'm not going in that ocean because I know there's sharks in there.
Yeah.
I know there's little stingrays, there's little jellyfish that are gonna sting me, and I don't want it.
Right.
So I'm not going in there." Because they've seen the horror stories on the news. They've seen Jaws. They've seen.
Right.
Don't go in the ocean. Well, Jonah, the ocean, the sea, in a literary sense in the Bible, is normally used as a sign of chaos.
Yeah.
Not things not being settled. There's a storm here. It's chaotic, scary. This is if normally in a horror movie, when you're a victim of something in a horror movie, it's not because you did anything other than being at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right.
Jonah is a horror story for what happens if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing.
Maybe it's kind of like the slasher movies, where the couple that's making out, like the bad couple that's off making out, they're the ones who are the first ones that the slasher gets to. So Jonah's breaking the rules, so maybe he has it coming under slasher film logic.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's it's scary because the horror of being in a storm is scary. I can't imagine getting to a place to where I'm in some situation to say, like, in order to save all y'all, kill me.
Yeah.
Like, that's scary in and of itself to get to that point. Like, how scary was that storm for him to get to that point?
Right.
And then, the Bible uses the term that the fish vomits.
Yeah, vomits him up,
I don't know about you, but I've never had like a pleasant throwing up experience. It's always really violent.
Much,
it's
much less being the throwing up.
Imagine being the one being thrown up. Like, this is not like a feel good, Jesus loves you kind of story. This is the authors of Jonah used these techniques in order to paint a picture, in order to scare people, in order to have people say, this is what happens when you don't follow God.
Yeah. There's also it's always this like God is with you all the time.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
always like I've often thought that that's a funny, like there's a security issue, right? Like, oh, God is with you, like your mom is with you and making sure you're safe,
Yeah,
and but then there's also like the being monitored part of that, and I kind
Right.
of get a little bit of that vibe from Jonah. Like God is like constantly in his business, like that's why I think it's so interesting, and he sends him into danger, not
Yeah.
just into the fish, but also into this dangerous territory, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I was like another like horror movie it reminds me of is Get Out, right? Because
Yeah.
he goes in sort of behind enemy lines, and
That's
like,
a good point.
and it's
Yeah.
like, and if you're Jonah, you go in there. And I will say another funny thing about the story is when you say it's cautionary tale, no doubt, because who is the person who isn't transformed?
It's Jonah.
It's Jonah.
The
He
star
goes
of
through the whole
star of the
story.
movie.
He does
The
not.
The
He
main
doesn't
character.
reform.
He doesn't reform. He's mad that Nineveh didn't fall and for his own, Nineveh was the capital of Assyria, like we said.
Yeah.
They should, if we get our way, we want our enemies to fall.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
Nineveh didn't fall. Jonah was mad at God.
Nineveh didn't fall. The sailors are fine. Everybody's fine
Except for Jonah.
And it's because
Yeah.
Jonah should have been able to celebrate
Yeah.
these people
Yeah.
turning from their evil ways.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. And that's, we got to be it's just so relevant. We have to put ourselves in the frame of mind. If we're out yelling at people and saying, this is evil, we need to be able to identify things that are evil. Jonah identified what was evil. God told Jonah to tell them to repent. He told them to repent. But the problem with Jonah was he wasn't willing to accept the goodness from God.
That's right.
That's the problem.
And one of the things that I've always found interesting about Jonah at the end is exactly like it literally ends with a question. I had to make sure I was telling you right. I did look it up. It literally ends with a question. And I don't know about you, but like I've been in lots of arguments with people, and when you realize that like they're not going to get it, you just got to walk away.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
And that's what I think, God is like, look, dude, you went through all of this, and then you succeeded, and you're still mad. I don't know what else to tell you. You're good. You did the work that you're supposed to do, but like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Right.
Like,
right.
I still love you. Like, I don't think that God abandons Jonah, but it's more like like a parent who just like you're gonna keep. I'm gonna keep loving you. Seriously. I'm not a parent, but like you are. Like I'm sure
you got so upset about this plant that you didn't even plant, and you were not more so than all of these people, and also many animals. By the way, I love for the animal lover friends. We should remind them that also animals. Yeah, that's right, and that's where he ends it. He's like, well, all right, fix yourself.
Yeah, fix yourself.
But
just like.
So it's a good. It's great.
The Ninevites, they fix themselves.
That's right.
You can't fix yourself. Yeah. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure the story continues elsewhere for Jonah, but like here in the Bible, it just ends.
That's where it ends on the question. So,
so I think Jonah is a really interesting book, and I hope that people go back and reread it as not just as adults, but to help break out of that old thinking about what the story of Jonah was. Because when we think about it as just as that literal story, like in today's world, it doesn't work to tell people that a fish swallowed you for 3 days. We know that doesn't work.
Right.
For sure. What's the story?
Sure, go back with your critical thinking brain and read it. Yeah. It's a short book, Jonah. It's its own book. I agree. Yeah. I think it's definitely worth a reread.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun book to read. Cool. Well, that wraps up that part of the story of our Jonah conversation. And so that wraps up our podcast for today. Thank you, Jim, for joining us. Hot Takes and Holy Grounds, and we look forward to our next conversation, which will be in a month. We'll be at another coffee shop. I want to thank Bookish Coffee Shop for allowing us to be on their patio. They don't know that we're here. They don't even know that we're recording, but hopefully they get some
served us, so that's nice. We appreciate the hospitality.
Free advertising to all of our listeners.
All of them.
Yeah.
All right.
But thank you all so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Please reach out if you have any questions. We're happy to talk. Peace.